Welcome to Marketplace with Charles, where dreams are turned into reality. Marketplace is brought to you by Art of Skincare. Art of Skincare, the company that brings out the beauty in you, as well as Kuisa Lodge, situated in the deep heart of Mabalingo Nature Reserve, where you sleep, dream, and wake up with the big five around you. If tranquility is what you're looking for, then Kuisa Lodge is the place to be. I am Charles Ngobeni. Today, we're talking to a former convict who refused to let his past define him. How many of the inmates in our prisons have now considered themselves recyclable inside the prison to the point that they feel comfortable in prison than they do outside? How many of our youth in our society have given up because they have suffered failure in one way or another, to such an extent that they depend on a welfare system that can be right? My guest today will show you how possible it is to fight this and succeed against all odds. Help me welcome Mankga with you in your home, wherever you may be watching this episode with me. Soli.
Sir.
Welcome to Marketplace with Charles.
Thank you for having me, sir.
It's my pleasure to host you. You know, the last time I heard you speaking, you were great. And you inspired so many people. And today, my aim and purpose, I need you to inspire the whole world at the end of the show that there is life outside the prison. Life does not end up in the prison cell. And I need you to inspire people that when you come out of the prison, you can be anything much better. Just like our own Mandela, who went in there and studied. And when he came out, he changed the whole world. Who is Soli?
Soli Mankga is a businessman and also a social entrepreneur. I was born and raised in Limpopo, but we later moved to Joburg in the township called Tembisa. So currently I'm into import and export. I do my business in China, Dubai, France, and Turkey. And and also I'm a motivational speaker as well.
And is that the only business you're involved with?
Yes, I'm also in partnership with Dr. Mankga.
Oh, yes, yeah.
We've just came up with a new range of condoms, which is called Dr. Mankga condoms.
Well, Soli.
Yes, sir.
If you don't mind, I need you to tell the whole world where it all began.
Well, I grew up in Tembisa, you know, and at that time, Tembisa was known as one of the townships that was, you know, crime was very rife. There was too much gangsterism. And I grew up in a family where my father was absent, my mom was absent. So basically I had only my uncle and my grandmother. So you can understand that in that environment, obviously, my uncle will then be my role model. And unfortunately, my uncle was so much involved in crime. So my uncle was well known in the township. Like the community, they used to hero worship him because of crime activities, you know. He even made a lot of money out of crime. So he became then my role model. And I started to, you know, to admire how he make money, to admire his lifestyle and the lifestyle of his friends. And I decided to, you know, not to further my studies anymore and to join my uncle, because one way or the other, he would involve me in one of those activities, one of his activities of crime. For an example, I mean, he was a car dealer. So he had a lot of connections, and he knew all the tricks in terms of how to get, you know, illegal cars and convert them, you know, and be able to sell them even beyond the borders of South Africa. So, and he used to make a lot of money. So that made me to think that, you know, he doesn't have a matric certificate to start with. He has never been to school, doesn't even have a high school education, let alone tertiary education, but he's making a lot of money, you know. So I started to admire the life of crime, and I decided to join him.
But do you think he was really making money?
Yeah, he was making money.
Because most of the people, maybe they do make money. Maybe we think they make money. My question is, do they have money in the bank? Or what happens to this kind of money that they make? Because if I were to ask you today, what assets does he have after all these activities?
Yeah, but I think you need to understand, at that time, as a young boy, my definition of somebody who's making money is someone who's, it will be informed by the lifestyle they are living. Because he used to buy properties around Tembisa, at that time. And you always have cash in his house. There's always a lot of cash. I wouldn't struggle for cash, and he used to change cars, So for me, that was the lifestyle. For me, it was success. That is how I used to define success, because even my friends will tell me that, your uncle is big. I mean, he's doing great things.
Let's talk about your transformation whilst you were arrested. How did this happen?
Yeah, well, transformation. Yeah, after I was arrested, because you must understand, I had to remain in trial for 3 years.
3 years?
Yeah, trial simply means you remain in custody, but you still have to attend court. So I was not granted bail on the basis that my case, it was categorized under Schedule 6. So Schedule 6 simply means you do not qualify to be given a bail.
Yeah.
So you have to remain in custody. So I had to remain in custody for 3 years. 3 years, then later I was sentenced to 15 years.
Yeah.
Now let's go straight to the transformation part.
If you remain in custody for 3 years and then they sentence you for 15 years, do they take off the 3 years?
They don't. Yeah, you were there freestanding. Because you must remember, for 3 years awaiting trial simply means you're trying to apply for bails, the investigations, and probably the people that you are with, they have some cases as well, so they delay the whole process. Okay. So later I was sentenced to 15 years. And when I got to local maximum prison, gangsterism was very, very rife.
Yeah.
People were dying. It was hell, I've seen guys there, guys were sentenced to life imprisonment, 48 years, 50 years, 70 years. It was just hectic. And when you are sentenced to 15 years, to them, it's like, you're doing nothing, bruh. You'll go out anytime, So I thank God that while I was there used to be pastors from, certain ministries, and they would come there for prison ministry, because the prison would allow prison ministry to take place. And that's when I started to attend the prayer meetings, the Bible studies. And I remember one day I received Christ as my Lord and personal Savior. That was in 2004. And I was 6 months in my sentence. And then after receiving Christ, something, I normally refer to it as a miracle. I started to see life differently. And one day, as I was sitting in my cell, I had to revisit all my 5 dimensions, because I believe each and every person has 5 dimensions. Yeah. You have a spiritual dimension, your physical dimension, your social dimension. But we normally focus on our physical dimension, how we look, how we dress, how we want to fit in society or whatever, and we neglect other dimensions. So I had to tap into my skills dimension and realized that there was a lack in my skills dimensions.
Skills?
Yeah, skills dimension. Okay. I didn't have any, high school qualification. I didn't have any skill. Then I decided to go to school. Because in prison, they do give us that opportunity to further our studies. So I went to school, done my grade 10, completed my grade 12. After completing my grade 12, then I enrolled with UNISA. Then I did my BA in philosophy, politics, and economics. And then later we were given bursaries to do any diploma through Department of Education. Then I did my national diploma in human resources management. I did my international computer driving license. So there's a lot that I did as far as education is concerned. So that's where I started to think differently, because now I understand how things work, and now I can see that God is doing amazing in my life through, for me, going to prison with nothing, and here I am, and I've got a degree, I've got a matric, I've got a diploma, and I was also, studying other certificates, business management on the side, and yeah, so that's how my transformation came about.
So you basically you took advantage.
Yes, I did.
Of your setbacks.
Yes, I chose to invest my time in education because most people don't invest their time in gangsterism because there's too much gangsterism in prison.
Yeah, yeah.
So those pastors, they made us understand that there's a bigger picture. We might be in that situation, but we need to look at ourselves beyond the situation. We need to look at ourselves beyond the prison walls, because one day we'll be released from prison.
One day, God sometimes works in a funny way. I went into the bathroom. I sat down, and I helped myself. After helping myself, I stood up. I looked into my mess. I looked at it again. I wanted to flush, and I could not. You know why? Because I was so jealous. I looked into my mess. I imagined someone at the end of the storage line, waiting patiently so, with a bucket, to catch up my mess, turn it into a manure, and process it, put it in a beautiful plastic bag, only for me to go and buy it back from Pick and Pay, ShopRite, and Macro, to use it on my own garden. And most of us, we fail to take our messy situation and turn them into a manure and take advantage of that. And I think you have done very well, because you were in prison and you got free education when you were there. And your situation turned around. How I wish that everybody could take their setbacks and make it their comebacks, like you did. Well, viewers, after the break, we'll take this deeper, like our prophet, our Papa, would say. Welcome back to Marketplace with Charles. I am still sitting here with the great Solly Mankga. Solly, let's go deeper. Firstly, before you were arrested, did you have friends? Yes. And will you say these friends played a positive or negative role? Have they impacted you? Yes. What was the role of friendships within all this ordeal?
Yes, I had friends, but for me, I think they played a very negative role in my life.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing positive that we could discuss apart from crime. Mm-hmm. There was nothing positive that we could discuss apart from gangsterism, apart from robbing people. And you must remember, at that time, there was this doctrine that we were given to say, white people, they've taken our stuff from our grandparents. So one of the ways to go and get our stuff back is through crime, you know. So those were the wrong doctrine, and we used to encourage one another about that. And that was our vision, to say we will do crime, we will live crime, and we will die crime. Yeah, so there was none of my friends who could bring a positive element or a positive aspect to say, no, but there are better options than crime. And you must understand, growing up in a family where no one graduated, I mean, no one is a businessman, no one has, has achieved certain things in life that you could admire. It was difficult. The only person who achieved so much is a criminal, So it was easy for me to follow that route as well. And also to my friends as well. I mean, I don't remember one of my friends, probably his father was a teacher or the mother was a nurse or advocate, whatever. So there were no such, They were struggling, they were domestic workers, and so I think there were no areas where we could derive inspiration or where we can take lessons and put it into and apply those lessons in our lives to be positive.
Most of the people, when they come out of prison, they are not welcomed by their communities. We are still scared of them. How did you manage to overcome that? How did you integrate yourself back into the society?
Yeah, I think two things. Sometimes the community will resist, or the community will be, will reject you on the basis that probably the crime that you committed, maybe you have committed a crime in your community.
Yeah.
You've murdered someone or raped someone. So it's difficult for them to, to accept you back. But the Department of Correctional Services, they have a program which is called Victim Offender Dialogue, where they engage with the community, with the victims, before you could be released. So that's one case.
Yeah.
So with me, it was different because I did not commit a crime within my community.
Okay.
It was way far from my community. But I knew that there'll be some sort of rejection, stigma there and there. That's why when I came out, I had to think of a project that can help me to reintegrate myself. Because reintegration is not only about the government and the community, where they say, now the government, through the Department of Correctional Services, they will say, now, please accept these inmates, they've been well rehabilitated. But also as an inmate, as an ex-offender or ex-inmate, you have a role also that you need to play in order for them to be able to receive you. So you need to come up with initiatives that will prove to community members that indeed you have changed. So I had to come up with initiatives. I registered a non-profit organization where I took some ex-inmates, went to schools, to educate kids about the repercussion of engaging in any crime-related activities. So that was one of the activities that helped me to reintegrate back to the community.
But then how did you deal with the loss of both of your parents whilst you are still in prison?
It was tough. Because remember, when you're in prison, you need to have a very effective support structure. Because prison, normally they would run out of resources, so you need to have that support system. But I prayed, and I think what sustained me is the grace of God, because I was reading the Word too much. I was so much in the Word of God. So that is one thing that gave me courage to say I can do it against all odds. Yeah. That's why I even managed to, to study. So that kept me going to say it's not the end of life, it's not the end of the world. I can still manage. But the challenge was, remember, upon release, for you to be eligible for parole, you need to have somebody who's going to take responsibility. To say, when he comes out, I'll take responsibility. So in my case, it was a challenge because parents were no more. So I had to, social workers had to come, discuss, and come up with ways as to how they can assist me to release based on what I've achieved, because they could see that indeed I've been transformed and as well as rehabilitated.
But the system sometimes is unfair because you come back transformed. They don't take you off the system.
They need to be the consequence of committing crime. So if we're going to remove a criminal record, what's the point of taking somebody to prison? And remember, if you've been sentenced to 15 years, you only serve half of the sentence.
Yeah.
The remaining, you must serve it outside. So if we remove the parole element, then we're simply saying people should remain there for 15 years. So it's a problem. So it's a bit fair. And also, we need to have something that will discourage people from committing crimes, because you know that if you commit crime, it's going to affect your life forever. So on the criminal record side, I can't agree with them. It should be there. Because to be honest, criminal record, it does not prevent you to become whatever that you want to become.
Okay. Let's talk about your business now.
Yes.
How did you start your business?
Yeah, well, I started my non-profit organization.
Yeah.
And how I positioned myself, I didn't want to be like all these non-profit organizations where, you know, when you look at the NPOs, you see this struggling organization, charity case, kind of like. So I didn't want to be like them. So I had to partner with a corporate, Vodacom, Liberty Life. So what I will do is I will speak to Liberty Life and say, I've got audience in the township. So you can bring your program, because they had a financial wellness programs. Because I knew that through those programs, I will get a project fee. So I'll have to arrange venues and whatever. So my NPO would be able to make some bit of money. And that's how I saved money. Then I started going to China and Turkey to source some stuff that I supply to various shops in Gauteng, Rustenburg, and Limpopo.
Have you ever encountered challenges in your business? And if so, how did you overcome them?
Challenges were there.
Yeah.
Especially, I remember my first trip to China. Coming back, I didn't understand the rules of customs. Custom do things and stuff, and I lost money. So my view is, before you get into any business or into any transaction, do a thorough research, do a proper research as to what is it that you want to do and what are the risk there and there, and just make sure and know, be equipped with knowledge. And remember, some of the guys that I will meet, once they find out I'm an ex-offender, it becomes a problem, because now I need to convince them, 10 times an ordinary person, because like, I don't want to be a jail, you're from prison, so how do I trust you with my money? How do I trust you with this contract? So I had to prove myself to say, no, I've changed, my man, and we can do this. So those are some of the challenges that you encounter, because people will Google you. If you go to Google and say Solu Mankga, there's a whole profile there, We even lose marriages because of that.
Yeah.
Because when you try to date somebody, will go and Google, say, oh, ex-offender, show me friend, run, things like that. So those are the challenges, because you always carry the stigma with you that you're in prison and you can't hide.
And now, I want you to inspire the people who were in a similar situation. What will you tell them if you were to meet them today?
Yeah, well, I would say, one, invest in yourself. Read books, attend workshops, business seminars, because most people, they're facing challenges as a result of them not investing themselves. Like, people will choose to, to buy a ticket to a cruise for 7 days, drinking there and whatever. They, instead of taking that money and, enroll in some courses to empower yourself, go to workshop, attend business seminars, just empower yourself. I think empowerment is key, because empowerment will help you to overcome certain challenges. Because challenges, for you to overcome challenges, obviously you need God, you need the strength, you need the grace of God, but also you need the knowledge. You must know as to how to deal with things, and you must have an emotional intelligence. You must know how to deal with things emotionally as well.
You do a lot of motivational talks nowadays.
Yes, I do.
And how are they structured? How do you work with it? And if people need to get hold of you, how do they do that?
They can, go to my Facebook, which is Solin Khalabi, and inbox me. Yes. And that's because, I like inbox, because I'm able to interact with people, because sometimes people take chances, So I prefer Facebook. That's where I interact with people, and I do motivational talks. But my motivational talks, they are based on, crime. I deal with the youth, those, in every school you get these troubled students.
Yeah.
I deal with them. Those were
I was one of them.
Yeah, those who are into drugs, those, who normally, don't attend classes, the troublemakers. Those are my target market. So I don't just go around and give motivational talks, And then in business seminars, obviously, I share my story in the business that I do. That's what I do.
Well, Soli, it has been my pleasure having you gracing our studio.
Thank you very much, sir.
Any parting thoughts to the viewers?
Any parting thoughts? No. Prayer is powerful, and they must trust in God, regardless of whatever they are going through. When you're going through something, look at yourself beyond the situation. See yourself as a victor beyond the situation. And always tell your problem, your challenges, how great your God is. And stop exalting your problem. You see, when you're talking about your problem, now and then, it's a point of discussion. It becomes a problem. So rather you tell your problem, call it by name, lack of money, whatever the disease might be, call it by name and tell that problem that my God is great and I'm going to overcome, and see yourself, visualize yourself, see yourself beyond the situation as a victor. That's my parting shot.
Well, there is life out of prison. And for that matter, I think Saul is one of the few unlucky people who were just caught. Most of us, we did exactly the same thing. The difference between ourselves and him, maybe the police did not catch us until Christ found us. I am Charles Ngobeni signing off on Marketplace with Charles. You can get a hold of me on charlesngobeni.com, Instagram Charles_Ngobeni, Facebook me. Let's communicate. We need to hear from you. God bless you. See you next time, same channel.
Join Marketplace with Charles on an 11-day tour of the Holy Land. Take the route Israel traveled to the Promised Land. Cross over the Red Sea and float on the Dead Seas, the lowest point on earth with amazing healing properties. Experience the vibe of Jericho and cruise on the Sea of Galilee to Capernaum, the hometown of Jesus. Visit the pools of Bethesda, Nazareth, Bethlehem, and many more. Walk where Jesus walked and see the Bible come alive. If beautiful memories and an enriched spirit is what you are looking for, then join us in taking Jesus to the marketplace. For more information, call us on +27 72 123 0078 or email israel@artofskincare.co.za.